Got your head hung low, your sky's a shade of gray, like a zombie in a maze. You're asleep inside, but you can't shake away, 'cause you're just a dead man walking, thinking that's your only option. But you can flip the switch and brighten up your darkest day. Sunny's out, spend the colors blinded, see the world and redefine it. Leave behind your narrow mind, you'll never be the same. Come alive, come alive, go and light your light. Let burn so bright, reaching up to the sky, and it's open wide. You're electrified. When the world becomes a fantasy, and you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And you know you can't go back again to the world that you were living in. You're dreaming with your eyes wide open. So come alive. You believe that lie, that you need to hide your face, afraid to step outside. So you lock the door, but don't you stay that way.
No more living in those shadows. You and me, we know how that goes.
'Cause once you see it all, you'll never, never be the same. We'll be the light that's shining, buckle up and keep on trying. Reaching high, la la la, la 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 la. Come alive,
Come alive,
go and light your light.
let it burn so bright, reaching up
To the sky,
and it's open wide. You're electrified.
when the world becomes a fantasy, and you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. When you know you can't go back again to the world that you were living in, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. So come alive. Come on, come on, come in, come on.
Anyone who's burning with their dreams.
Come on, you hear the call to anyone who's searching for a way to break free. When the world becomes a fantasy, and you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And you know we can't go back again to the world that we were living in, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. When the world becomes a fantasy, you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And you know we can't go back again to the world that we were living in, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. 'Cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. So come alive.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point in reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light.
And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born in the vapor if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sound of all our praises still falls shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. When you lost your life, so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart in billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I.
like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desires? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
Hello. Well, I love that song. That does something for me. I feel very emotional. One reason because I'm a bit jet lagged. Another reason is because I love to be home, and it's nice to be back. We're going to talk about home a bit later. I don't want to take too long in this introduction because we've got a very full program for you tonight, and I believe that something of a message is going to fall into your spirits if you're open to it. But I was thinking about the whole thing of how people say when you come to church, you ought to be here to listen to stories about Jesus and also to hear about the Bible. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, well, that's dumb if we really want to be truthful, and of course I try to be. Because if you go back to Jesus' day, I think you can count on one hand how many times he used the Bible that he had, which was probably called the Torah, in his day. But Jesus used parables. Why? Because he wanted to use a language that people could understand. And I'm sorry, I'm very emotional tonight because I believe that that's the job that we're here to do. We're going to speak a language that everyone can understand. And we think about this, the story of the sower and the seed, where we say, oh, well, the farmer went out and he was, scattering seed. And we think of that seed as being the word of God. But was it? No, I believe that actually the seed that was being planted was Jesus trying to get over to people a different image of God, of the Father, of his awesome love, of his nature and his character. which was going to make them whole. And, I saw a picture this week on Facebook, and it was about a dandelion pushing its way up through a tarmacked road. And so there's a little bump in the tarmac, and there's this seed going through. And I remember as I was being brought up, I was taught that when the seed fell on rocky ground, basically the birds of the air came and picked it up, and it flew away, and that was it. But you know what? When the seed that comes from a knowledge of the character and nature of God, which is always alive, even falls on rocky ground, there is the opportunity for it to come alive. And that's why we were singing that song at the beginning, Come Alive, because that seed, if we will only understand that it's not a dead seed, but it's full of life because it's brimming over with the goodness and the nature and character of God. So we're going to use parables tonight. We're going to use the parable of the musk deer. And it's a story that was so wonderfully sent in by Francesca, and we're going to use that tonight to bring you closer to an understanding of the awesome nature and the character of God. So are you ready to receive that tonight? I'm going to say to the band, take it away. I still haven't found what I'm looking for, and get ready to be educated on this story. Thank you.
I have climbed highest mountains. I have run through the fields only to be with you. Only to be with you. I have run, I have crawled, I have seen these city walls.
That is the number one song that a groom should not sing on his wedding day. So those of you who may get married in the future looking for a good song to sing your bride down the aisle, I can assure you that is not it. It's good to be back. As Chris has already said, and I think it's a very important point to note, and I actually find it quite staggering because I must admit I hadn't really given it much thought until this week. The fact that Jesus didn't use the Bible to preach when he preached to the people to whom he was preaching. And it's also rather funny for those of you who've been around church for some time that very often neither did Paul or neither did Peter or neither did John, but what we talk is what they talked, and so we call that Bible, so we preach from the Bible because the Bible has recorded what they said. Now, the important thing for that is this, as Chris already said, that when Jesus spoke to people, and really the whole thrust of this thing that we are in, if it is anything, is to speak a language that people can understand. It's about conveying a message, not a theology. It's about not a dogma, but a truth that we have to get a hold of. Because some people think that truth is some celestial rule book, when actually truth is a person, and that person comes in the form of Jesus, which he said, I'm the way, the truth, and your life. And I sincerely still believe that if you find the Jesus of the Bible, the real Jesus, then you find life and you find truth. And so tonight, the parable of the musk deer. And this is all really about beauty within. So I'm going to read you some things in both my sessions and just make some comments about these things. Musk is a kind of valuable, extremely fragrant salve found in the navel of the musk deer. Sounds a bit disgusting, but there you go. It's a habitant of the highest Himalayan hills of India. At a certain age, the ravishing odor of the musk secretly oozes out of the navel of the musk deer. And the deer becomes excited at the attractive odor of musk. Sounds a little bit like puberty, doesn't it? The deer becomes excited at the attractive odor of musk and frisks about, sniffing under trees and searching everywhere for the attractive odor of musk. And it searches everywhere for many weeks to find the source of the fragrance. Finally, he grows angry and very restless. Why? Because he's unable to find the source of the musk perfume, and get this, often jumps from the high cliffs into the valley, trying to reach the source of the rare fragrance, and thus plunges to death. It actually kills itself in the search for what it is that it is longing for, that it knows it can smell, but it can't find. It's then that the hunters get hold of him and tear out the pouch of the musk because they know the value that he has never found. Now, I love this. A divine bard, whatever a divine bard is, I'm presuming it's somebody who is considered a spiritual poet. I might put myself a little bit in that category. You can all call me the divine bard from now on. A divine bard once sang, I won't sing it, I'll just read it. "Oh, you foolish musk deer, you sought for the fragrance everywhere but within. That is why you did not find it. If you only had touched your nostrils to your own navel," sorry, but that's really disgusting, but this is what the divine bard said. If only you had touched, so that you're trying it right now, stop it. It's not becoming. Okay, and I know some of you are going to go home and try it tonight, but there you go. If you had only touched your nostrils to your own navel, you would have found the cherished musk and would have saved yourself from suicide on the rocks below. Here's the point. Don't you think that most people act like the musk deer? As they grow, They seek the ever-fragrant happiness everywhere outside of themselves, in play, temptation, human love, and the slippery path of wealth. And I love this. Listen to this. Until finally they jump from the cliff of high hope onto the rocks of disillusionment. When they cannot find the real happiness which lies deep within the recess of their own souls. Jumping from the cliff of high hope onto the rocks of disillusionment. Every one of us are seeking for that scent. Everything that we do, all the plans we have for our life, everything we try to attain, everything we try to gain is in a search for that fragrance. That's something that comes out of here that is drawing us and calling us, and we want to find it because we know if we can just find the source of the smell that's coming from within that is drawing us, that we'll find what the source has to give us, the very life that is the essence of the musk that is coming out that we can sense. But so many of us finish up on the rocks of disillusionment because we jump from the cliff of high hope. The reason is we are like the musk deer, and ultimately we perish because we're seeking false happiness in all the wrong places.
Behold the dragon scroll. It is yours.
Wait, what happens when I read it?
No one knows, but legend says you will be able to hear a butterfly's wing beat.
Whoa, really? That's cool.
Yes, and see light in the deepest cave. You will feel the universe in motion around you.
Wow! Can I punch through?
throughout history. This moment is your home. I can't understand you if I just use my mind. I tried to leave you behind, but your love's got under my skin. I can't run away from what's within. You and I are one. And if it's my heart versus my head, my heart has won. You and I are one. When I close my eyes, I see what I'm trying to find is living in the heart of me. 'Cause we are love defined, but I can't understand you if I just use my mind. I tried to leave you behind, but your love's got under my skin. I can't run away from what's within. You and I are one. And if it's my heart versus my head, my heart has won. You and I are one. And I can't understand you if I just use my mind. I tried to leave you behind, but your love's got under my skin. I can't run away from what's within. You and I are one. But if it's my heart versus my head, my heart has won. You and I are one.
Hi everyone. So as you can see, I'm going to be doing this week's There's No Q Without You segment. And for those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, hi, I'm Leah. I'm a third year youth and community work student, and I absolutely love cats. So honestly, if we're friends on Facebook, just tag me in cat videos because it will genuinely make my day. And another thing that you need to know about me is that I'm a pastor's daughter. And the reason why I'm telling you that today is because I'm going to tell you about my journey and about my quest as to how I found myself and kind of who I'm meant to be in this world and stuff. So I grew up in Sheffield with my amazing mum and dad and my brother. And because of the religious culture that was within the churches that I grew up in, I always felt like I needed to be this perfect example of what a pastor's daughter should be. So I'd rock up to church on Sunday when I was little with the cutesy little dresses. I led worship alongside my dad from the age of 5. You name it, I did it. And that was great whilst I was within those churches. But when we were 13, my family and myself moved to a Pentecostal church where my dad took on an assistant pastor role. And that's kind of when the religious bubble I'd been living with him kind of started to burst, because it seemed like I wasn't doing enough to feel like I had a strong relationship with God. So I kind of started doing more. So I helped out with the refreshments. I became a junior youth leader. I went to every prayer meeting. I prayed and fasted in my own time. But still, it never felt like I was kind of as good enough of a Christian as I could be. So fast forward a few years to when I was 17 and in sixth form, and I was a mess. So a combination of exam stress and my own lack of self-worth really started to take a toll on my mental health, and my grades started to slip. I had panic attacks on the daily, And this was kind of like a spiral because I realized that I needed to spend more time studying to get my grades up. So I decided to take a step back from church. And in doing this, I felt so guilty for not being there, and like I was letting people down. But in doing this, it kind of distanced myself from God. I felt distant from God, which in a way, if you think about it, I was. So I was distant from a God who was selfish, who only was there for his children when they praised him enough or showed themselves to be kind of willing servants. And through that, I began to question my faith. And I realized that I didn't exactly agree with everything that was taught at that church. But at the time, I was too scared to kind of question it because I obviously didn't want to make my mum and dad look bad, and I didn't want to question the pastors because I felt like I wasn't kind of educated enough or theological enough to kind of prove my point and kind of just say what I believed in properly. So I decided to work really, really hard at sixth form, get the grades I needed to get into university, which meant that I could move from Sheffield to York and find a new church. So I did this with a lot of encouragement and prayer and hard work. So in 2015, I started university at York St. John, and I thought, great, I can find a new church now, and everything's going to be fine. But the thing is, I seemed to join a church which was very similar to the one back home, so I was still feeling pressured to find a good church that was kind of like spiritually rich and very theological, that had a good student program and all this stuff, which I kind of did find. But the thing is, I never felt as spiritual and as holy as all the other people my age. So fast forward about 6 months, I'd been there for about a year, but 6 months prior to this, I kind of started to feel just not happy in myself. I didn't like who I was as a person, and I just felt that I was just so unworthy and just not good enough. So it got to Christmas 2016, and I remember going to the carol service and just feeling absolutely alone. Luckily, I moved here with my boyfriend, who has just been a constant person in my life that I can turn to. And, he doesn't understand the stuff that I went through because he's not grown up in church. He doesn't know what I was talking about, but he was the one person that was there for me throughout all this. But yeah, so I ended up leaving this carol service early, coming home, dropping to my knees in front of my bed and just weeping. And I remember sitting there and just crying out to God and saying, God, if you are here, I need a sign because I just don't know what to do. I don't know who I'm meant to be in this world. And I heard nothing. So I kind of got up and got on with my life. And the thing is, about a month after that, I started my placement with Beth. And through that, I kind of joined this church, and I found all of you guys, and I found home. And you're probably wondering why that kind of relates to you guys. So on Wednesday, I made what I thought was the completely random decision to come to the IQ session. And as I'm slowly starting to find out, sometimes the decisions you make in life aren't exactly as random as you think they are. Because we had a list of 5 questions on the table. And as I'm reading through the questions, I got to the last question, and it said something along the lines of, is there anything in your life, in your pursuit of beauty, happiness, success, or an acceptance, or something like that anyway? And I saw it, and I had a moment of, oh, that really relates to me, doesn't it? And I was kind of like, I started to kind of shake a little bit, because previously, on my way there, I'd had a weird thought, which I'm not going to go into now, but it kind of made me think about my own faith and what I believed in and stuff. So we were discussing and kind of going through all the questions as a group, and Vicky Unwin, I'm not sure if she's here today, but if you are, hi. Hey, there she is. And she shared something which she thought was completely stupid, but it was incredible. She said something along the lines of, when she's driving to work, she thinks the trees are amazing, especially in winter. Because even though all the leaves are falling off them, they're still so beautiful, and they don't have to try to be a tree, and they don't have to try to be beautiful, they just are. And it's kind of like us, we can sometimes try to be people that we're not and try to be beautiful, but yet we are already. We don't need to try to do anything like that. And that led me to stand up and kind of share what I've shared with you tonight. So that was great. And the reason why I took Beth up on the offer to share tonight is because as I was walking back, I swear these thoughts only happened to me on Ouse Bridge. I should just set up camp there and just kind of think, and I'd probably get the meaning of life and all that kind of stuff. But as I was walking across Ouse Bridge again, a song popped into my head, and it's The Lightning Tree by the Settlers. And this song, for those of you who don't know it, it's from the 70s. It was like a kids' show, theme show song. And it is the cheesiest song going. Honestly, if you've got a spare 5 minutes, type it in on YouTube. It's either going to make your day or ruin it. I can't decide which one. And it tells the story of a tree that is struck by lightning, causing its branches to become burned and torn and broken. And by the end of the song, it's kind of starting to sprout and grow. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, God, are you trying to tell me something? Because there is no way I would have thought about this song. Like, we sang it in primary school. I've not heard this song for about 10 years. Come on, what's going on? And as I thought about it, I was like, oh, I'm a lightning tree. I'm a lightning tree. And let me just explain why. So there's many of us in this room that may have been burned by experiences in life, whether that's religion, relationships, the death of a loved one, or just unkind words or anything within life. But the thing is, you won't and you don't have to stay burned forever. So God doesn't judge us for our past experiences or the things we've done. He invites us to share and embrace the incredible love he has for us. And the thing is, we don't have to be anything other than ourselves to be accepted and loved by God and each other. So the thing is, I stand here before you, a lightning tree, burned by religion, but slowly starting to grow and flourish within the incredible love that God and you guys show me every day. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, wasn't Leah amazing? She did an amazing job tonight. She did so well. I'm just going to quickly, in a minute, we're going to show you a video, and during that video, we're going to take our pay it forward. So this is your chance really quickly to get your stuff ready and write your checks for thousands of pounds ready to put in the buckets. But I just want to quickly tell you why that's so important, because a few weeks ago, we do so much in here. You've just seen that what's going on this week, and that's just this week. There's so much else happens. But a few weeks ago, we went to Dolby Forest with our youth guys, and it's our 5th annual trip, and they get better every year. It was incredible. To give you a quick rundown, we went to Whitby on the first day. Last year, we went to Whitby during Storm Doris. This year, it just absolutely chucked it down, so we're winning at our trips to Whitby, but that was good fun. Second day, we did loads of activities in Dolby Forest, which was a lot of fun, followed by a talent show. Your young people are talented young people. Slightly weird, but very talented. There was some definite bizarre dancing. There was a few random dance-offs that happened during the time we were there, which were a little bit, I'm not sure where they came from, but that was fine. We had an injury. Louis, he would win an award for the most accident-prone young person that we have. He managed to break his toe kicking a pipe on the first night. So that was quite impressive. And then the last day, we went and we did Hunt the Leader in Dolby Forest. And the kids had to search for these young leaders who were all dressed up looking ridiculous. And interestingly, with our theme tonight, there was a number of young people who, in their groups, got to the point where the team member was hid, couldn't find them anywhere, but just decided to take a photograph of themselves. And on a number of occasions, the team members were behind them in the photograph, but the young people hadn't even seen where they were, even though they were in front of their faces, which was quite brilliant. So you'll see a photo of them all dressed up at the end as well. So we're going to show you a video of all of that in a minute, but just to say that when we take the pay it forward, it doesn't just disappear. There's all sorts of running costs that we have here, but also it goes towards, these guys pay for their trip and they contribute towards it, but you guys make up the difference. You make it happen. You make them have an incredible time every year, and it's fantastic. And without the stuff that you give, we couldn't do stuff like this, and we wouldn't have had so many renditions of Come Alive over 3 days, more than you would ever believe. I'd not seen The Greatest Showman before we went to Dolby, and I knew it word for word before I even went to the cinema by the time we'd come back. So enjoy watching these videos, put your thousands into the bucket as it goes past, and have a great rest of the night.
So, back to our parable of the musk deer. Here's how another person put it. Musk deer are unaware of their own beauty, and they roam all their life not knowing what lies within them. Male musk deer are one of the most endangered and rare species on this planet. However, it's not their rarity which makes them special and mysterious. Musk deer produce the most expensive scent in the world. How many of you know that musk scent costs more than gold? So what lies within them is more valuable than gold. One of the ancient Bible writers talked about the fact that there is something inside of you which ultimately manifests as your faith in the one who created you, that he says is more precious than gold, which perishes. We often are trying to find a value in a place that can never give us that value, when all the heart of God is to release the value that is within you, because he is the one who made you and called you to himself. It says, this scent is produced, to bring things down to earth, in between its rectal and navel area in a small hairy pouch. I'll let you imagine that just for a moment before we press on. The pouch is also known as a musk pod. It's this musk which makes them so valuable in the eyes of the world, and the deer is equally enchanted by its own scent. Now, the reason I described where it is so you can understand another principle of the musk deer. The fact of where it is located means that when the goals of the deer is the discovery of the source from which the fragrance emerges, which indicates really that the deer is madly in love with it. What is happening is the love. It's love trying to find the source into which it is to locate itself. But it's actually a love for life. It's the essence of life that's trying to come out. I love the fact of what the Bible says about Jesus. It doesn't say that in him was religion, or in him was rules, or in him was the demand to be really, really spiritual. It says in him was life. And that life is the light of men. The light comes on when we find the life, but the life is not something external, it's something that comes alive internally. But the sad thing is, the musk deer never finds the source of the truth. It never gets to know about the uniqueness within. Instead, it looks for it outside, investing a considerable amount of passion in the pursuit, which we have all done. But most of the time, why I mentioned the location, most of the time it destroys the musk pod by rubbing it upon the rough edges of the mountains. Ouch. So what happens is that what we're looking for and the source of it is exposed to rough edges, and it gets rubbed, and it gets broken, and it gets scarred, and it gets destroyed, because our lives really are not protected from the effects of the environment in which we live. And the more we struggle to find what we're looking for outside, the more we damage the very place, our hearts, our souls, our minds, and we become wounded and distraught, and we begin to dislike ourselves and hate ourselves and all those things that come in, the self-loathing, the disappointment, the disillusionment, because we rub it on the ridges, on the rough parts of life that we meet in everyday experiences. It never occurs to the musk deer that what's in the pouch is the very essence of beauty itself. So it keeps looking, but once destroyed, I love this, once destroyed, the pouch can reappear within a year or two, but the deer never appreciates the reappearance and destroys it every time until it finally is butchered into nothingness by a human who knows its worth. Or in other words, we lose our own beauty, we lose our own life, we lose our own sense of meaning, we lose our connection because we never realize what it is. And it emerges, and in every one of us, that search for that beauty comes back, and it comes back, and it comes back, and it comes back, no matter how damaged we have been. The story ends here for the deer, but the essence never dies. The fragrance of musk deer lives and roams anyway, miles away from one human to another, every now and then in mysterious and quiet lands of lush green grass or on whose bridge or in the shower, or walking the dog, or wherever it is for you, the musk emerges from our own souls, which is as unique as a musk pod. There is one that sees our true potential. Some of us may live all our lives without even knowing that our souls are being butchered every day by a hunter who doesn't respect us enough. The Apostle Paul calls that the flesh. It's the part of you that doesn't give you the respect that you deserve and doesn't understand, and it butchers you until you lose all sense of God and all sense of what is beyond that moment. Regardless, I cannot stop thinking about the most beautiful journey of this deer. Its intellectual faculties are not even close to mine, but the innocence is more pure than my intellect can ever be. I love this. I find more spirituality in its struggle of finding the source of its own musk than all the books I have ever read about mysticism and about some other stuff as well. And what makes me cry is the fact that it never gets to know the truth. The innocence of the musk deer challenges us to take up the spiritual journey that we have been delaying for so long. Why do we delay it? Because we think that we can find the source of the fragrance outside of ourselves rather than the journey within, into our own soul, in the place where we meet God. It provides us an insight into the way we crush and damage ourselves in suicidal acts of searching, destined to end in failure, simply because we expend all our energy looking in the wrong place for the peace, acceptance, joy, and beauty we so desperately desire. And when gripped by the fragrance, again, of that thing that is drawing us, we do the same stupid things. The next song that the guys will sing is called At Last I See the Light. And I've had some words up here all the time that I've talked that I want you to let sink into you. Always searching, but never coming to a knowledge of the truth is what the musk deer truly does. It needs a revelation. It needs the light to come on. Because here's what happens when the light comes on. And I'm going to take you back 3,000 years to a guy called David, who in the ancient writings of the Bible suddenly got a revelation in his old failures when his own musk pod had been damaged, and he felt terrible about himself, rubbing it on the rocks of life and almost committing suicide with the stupidity of his actions, looking for fulfillment outside of himself and the place where God dwells. He wrote these words, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." See, the seeking's finished. He makes me to lie down in green pastures, which is what I was looking for, the peace. He leads me beside still waters. And he says this, he restores my soul. You might be a musk deer tonight. You may be ripping your life out from the inside, looking for what you think can give you the peace, the acceptance, the joy, and the connection that you long for. But you've got to find it in the right place. Right within you is where the truth of God came in Jesus to restore something in you that makes your soul whole again. Don't go from the high mountains of hope to smash on the rocks of disillusionment when your soul can come alive with the life of God, because you find the source of the fragrance. God sent Jesus to give you the source of the fragrance, and when you don't delay that spiritual journey, that's when you find the source, and when you find the source, you find the life.
All those days watching from the windows, all those years outside looking in, all that time never even knowing just how blind I've been. Now I'm here blinking
All those days chasing down a daydream, all those years living in a blur, all that time never truly seeing things the way they were. Now she's here, shining in the starlight. Now she's here, suddenly I know. If she's here, it's crystal clear. I'm where I'm meant to go. And at last I see the light, and it's like the fog has lifted. And at last I see the light,
And it's like the sky is blue.
and it's warm and real and bright, and the world has somehow shifted. All at once, everything looks different now that I see you. Now that I see you. All right, I just want to give you a call to action, and then we'll show our last video. There's some funny language in the Bible if you don't fully understand it. And one of them I was raised with, but I understand probably more now than I ever did, was when Jesus said to a man who was looking for the musk, because he could smell it, but he didn't know where to find it. He said, unless a man is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. What he meant was, unless you are born to a place where you find that source, which actually is the life that comes in Jesus, you will never see what the kingdom of heaven or the universe, as we've talked about, or all that is God's goodness is all about. So this is the call to action. The last video I want to show you is from The Greatest Showman, which is just the most awesome musical. But here's what it says. I drank champagne with kings and queens. The politicians praised my name. But those are someone else's dreams, the pitfalls of the man I became. For years and years I chased their tears, the crazy speed of always needing more. But when I stop and see you here, I remember who all this was for. And from now on, these eyes will not be blinded by the lights. From now on, what's waited till tomorrow starts tonight. It starts tonight. And let this promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on, from now on, and we will come back home. We will come back home. We will come back home. Again, the whole essence of the good news that we preach is for you to come back home again. Come back home from here to the Father's love, and you will know the source of the life, and then life will come to you.